Arsenal through to the fourth round of the FA Cup. An easy win in the end after a difficult and hard-fought first half. Eddie Nketiah with a brace and Mohamed Onelli, an unlikely goal scorer, with the opener to set up a blockbuster tie. The apprentice against the master. Arsenal going to the Etihad. But of course, even bigger news tonight for Arsenal fans. It's been reported by Damasio, Santi, and others that Arsenal are now closing in for the deal for mykhaylo Mudryk. The Gunners want to seal the deal soon, get it over the line. So some real positive news for Arsenal today after, of course, the disappointment of not being able to get Felix. And that's all now been revealed that Chelsea came back in from nowhere. They were pretty much out of it and essentially offered Ati everything they want, to a point where Atletico Madrid are even extending the deal of Felix to 2027 to ensure they get a massive amount of money. The reports stand that Man United and Arsenal were not prepared to allow that to happen. Chelsea, of course, in a much more desperate situation, so they did. But I want your reaction to the Mudryk news. And of course, I don't know how much you've got to say about tonight's game. I know that Arsenal fans will want to speak about the fringe players that came in. Fabio Vieira, of course, Lokonga and El Neni in the middle. How did you think they performed? What your thoughts and feelings are surrounding that, I want to hear from you right now. We're going to hear from Brandon. We're going to hear from Jessica and some others throughout the course of this show. Dan here says, why the hype around this guy? All the hype is created by himself. Waste of money. What, Mudryk? Listen, this is the thing. Go read scouting reports from before Arsenal were linked and then see what your mind says. I understand the notion that not every Arsenal fan has watched him play 50 games. Has he even played 50 games? I don't know in his career. But you trust your team, you trust your club, you trust what they're doing. I think that's why they are looking to put that in. Joshua here said the twerk is inbound. Listen, I don't twerk for Arsenal. I just say when they're good. And if Arsenal become bad, I'll say they're bad. And then all the Arsenal fans go, but you used to love us. Don't love anyone. I love, there's literally in this world, there's a handful of people I love. And most of them are my children. I just say things as they are. Most of the time I piss people off in doing it, but I'm not on this planet to make friends. That wasn't what I was put on God's green earth to do. Afternoon, Deshane Coates. I hope you're well. Is that Coates or Cortez? I want to know. I've got a friend who's got that surname called Coates, but yours might be Cortez. I'm going to go Deshane. I'm going to say Cortez. It sounds Deshane Cortez sounds better than Deshane Coates. So I'm going to go you Cortez just for now. And of course, I want to speak a bit of Eddie Nketiah tonight because that's another 2 goals. And someone's like, it's only Oxford. They're goals. They're legitimate goals. If you can't take goals off anyone. So it's another 2 goals. That's 4 goals. Listen, if he keeps playing like this, he's going to outscore Gabriel Jesus. I'm not saying he's a better player, but he's going to outscore him. And my lights in my room have actually broken. They've got a short connection in the wire. I shouldn't really play with them because I might end up killing myself. It's okay. I'll go with the black background. It's nice. It looks... I bought some new lights, but they didn't come with power cables because I'm an idiot. Scam me, no look. I think you mean Lokonga. Just loan him out next season. Yeah, he's not very good, is he? I mean, the Belgians were really raving about him. I remember we had Christophe Terrer on the channel. He was talking about the levels this kid could get to. Meh. Oh, the light's back on again. It is broken. I've got another one down there that's less broke that I should probably put in, but I have bought some new ones. Terry capping, he's twerking because Jess is an Arsenal fan. Just admit it. Listen, my friend, it's a very easy thing for people to say, but I can assure you this now. I don't simp for anyone at any point or at any moment. I don't yield for anyone. You're talking about a man who sacked his own brother from a job because he did not hit my sales standards. That's just the kind of person that I am. I'd sack anyone. I'd wind anyone up. I'd tell anybody the truth. The only 3 people that I'm a little softer with on this world, on this planet, are my kids. And even then, I'm not that soft with them. Legit. But there we go. So yeah, I ain't no simp. I can assure you of that. Hello, Terry. I think there's something big coming up this January. Transfer at Arsenal Football Club. Yeah, I mean, there might be something beyond the Mudryk deal. But you can see, look, Arsenal need a bit more. Let's have it right. We look at tonight's game against Oxford, and we'll bring Brandon and Jess out momentarily. They need more than what they've got on the pitch. they need more in that midfield, I would suggest. But even from an attacking point of view, in the end, it worked tonight. But we saw against Newcastle, if they could have brought a player such as Mudryk on, who's very quick, very direct. When I say skillful, I'm not talking Ronaldinho skillful, but he's got a good touch, can move the ball inside and outside. And in the modern day game, that is a very important asset to have. You can change things. Someone that will run off the shoulder, maybe. He's got the pace to do it. All these things are needed. So I think, but I think a midfield player as well would really help Arsenal, especially now that they're not going to get Felix. Now, Felix not a midfielder, but he drops into that deeper role. So I don't know. Listen, I don't fight over the semantics of positions anymore. It's pointless. But there we go. We have a super chat here from Ibi that says the front three yet start together to build the chemistry. Good they started. Hard to admit, but our system doesn't suit Tierney. I see him moving on. But then see, I quite like the fact that Tierney was bombing on the outside, and I think that I'm stealing Jess's thunder here, and I don't do this, but it's relevant to your point. Sometimes I think you may need to bring on a different fullback. Now, that doesn't mean Zinchenko comes off, because Zinchenko, for me, and I'm literally plagiarizing here, he's an attacking midfield style player playing as a fullback at times. I think he could play in midfield. But I think there's times where you could have them both on the pitch at the same time. Maybe not against Man City at the Etihad, but certainly in the vast majority of games at home. So I don't know. I think having those options and someone that can change the way you play is key. If all your left backs can only do the same thing and it isn't working, there's less of the needle being moved when you bring somebody new on, because the opponents just have to maintain their standards and they may be able to nullify you. Bringing an individual on that runs on the outside, stays wide, stretches the pitch. This is key, I think. But we'll see what your manager does. Terry, Arsenal were flat today. We have no midfield backup. That's not a massive step down. That is a massive step down, I think is what you mean. I think that's what you mean. I'm not 100% sure. Terry, who do I fancy, City or Arsenal? Listen, I have to say, at the Etihad, I am going with City winning because it's at the Etihad, but it's the magic of the FA Cup. 15% of the fans will be Arsenal fans rather than 5%. So there's a chance. But the fact that you're probably going to rotate due to the, being top of the league, I would go with Man City. That's my personal feeling. But some of you are probably shocked that I didn't say Arsenal. But there we go. I'm not biased with it. It just is. It is what it is. Dan here, who's a Tottenham fan, says, I have absolutely no clue why, but I am confident for the North London derby. If the crowd is up for it, and they should be, the worst we get is a draw. Dan, as the week builds up towards that game, we'll by about Wednesday, Thursday, we'll start the build up for that on the football terrace. But I'm excited about it. And listen, the only thing I'm not excited about when it comes to the North London derby is that I've got the Manchester derby the day before. My beautiful Reds play. Maybe we've got one. We might have signed one of the best number 9s in Turkish football by then. So we might be all right. Do you know what I mean? That is actually a fact. What I've said. He's one of the best number 9s in Turkey right now. Terry, we are coming to slap 10 bells out of City. Is what Joshua Loveless says. Maybe you will. Terry, please call upon Edu to sign Mudryk. Yeah, I'll give him a buzz now, mate. I'll give him a little buzz now. I'll be like, yo, Mudryk, have a little chat with me. That's my son, by the way. He's a lot older than that now. It doesn't work well with my phone anymore. I used to hold it and it used to play what he was doing. He was eating an Oreo ice cream. Don't work anymore. But yeah, that's little Archie. When he was little, when he was like 4, he's like 8 now. I haven't changed it personally because I don't know how to change it. He set it and then he left it there, and I don't know how to change it because I'm old, man. Waghorse the goat. Yeah, he is. Hello, Terry. Why are we paying big money for someone who's only played 31, 40 games in a crap league? Well, firstly, Mudryk has performed in the Champions League impeccably well. And secondly, you are buying the potential. I'm going to be honest, I don't know where this notion that you're paying too much for a highly talented young player comes from. Young players for 20, 30 years have gone for exorbitant amounts of money. At the same time, Arsenal cannot celebrate having a superior scouting network, an ideology, and a surgically specific, sort of like a laser precision recruitment team and player profile that is going to make them Premier League champions. And then when they pick a player, that club go, okay, yeah, you can have him for 10 million. Because if you as Arsenal fans are saying we're this good at picking players, you knock on the door for my player, I'm adding 60%. I'm adding 70% because you're Arsenal and you're brilliant, right? Same as Liverpool when they celebrated for years. Oh, we get players so cheap because we find talent, like hidden talent. As soon as you start telling the world that you find hidden talent that nobody else can see, everyone whacks on a premium. Call it Arsenal tax. I'd put it in the contract. Yeah, he's 20 million valuation, but we're sticking 300% Arsenal tax on because you may think that he's better than even we do. It's the nature of the beast, baby. To the young Arsenal fans that are watching the young'uns, welcome back to the big leagues because this is what happens. You get stung for price. Get used to it. It's the way the cookie crumbles. Felix said he likes Chelsea's project. Listen. Look, I know. I've just printed what Ornstein told us. I've been getting cooked for it. Like, Terry, you can't believe this. I'm just passing on the message. Do not shoot the messenger. But João Felix has gone to Chelsea, and he says it's because of the project. Now, listen, we've fast forward 18 months and go, yeah, but there's no permanent deal, so he might not be part of the project in the future. He might not be. Let's see what happens. Terry, you're really an Arsenal fan. Just admit it, bro. I can. Do you know what do I need to do to prove to you that I'm not? I'm very interested in what I can do, what my actions would need to consist of to be able to prove that I don't support your football club. I'm just being unbiased about them or their football club. Super chat here from Daniel says, gives credit where it's due. Oxford United played well. Sambi needs to go out on loan. Can't see him playing any games for the rest of the season. Look, Oxford play nice football, but they've got no finishes. Friend zone football, very pretty, very good look. Like, very good, very pretty, very nice, but no end product. Friend zoned. And listen, gents, you never want to be friend zoned. It's a sad, sorry place to be. But you should never really get friend zoned. You should pick up on the signs quite instantly. Maybe I'll start a podcast. And I'm not going to start a podcast on something like that because I'd end up getting arrested. Anyway, thanks for the content. My pleasure, Daniel. Wow, mucker. I appreciate that, China. Yes. Don't care about Felix. Another Bowley overpay signing, which Potter can't use and will play him at wing back. Felix is going to be going to a broken team. He'll get ruined, is what is said there. Also, I'd say about Oxford as well. When I go back to the super chat, I thought the table was there and I missed it. What I would also say about Oxford is this: they came out and roughed Arsenal up in that first half. They left a few boots in. Have you seen that Spurs fan? I think he's a Spurs fan who sits on TikTok going, "Hello, football fans. It's the doctor here," and then he says like, "What you got to do is stud them. You got to stud them." But I don't mean like lead into them. I mean like stud them, football fans. That's kind of what Oxford did tonight. Maybe they've been on TikTok. They got at you. And some of the gooners, some of the old players, they weren't up for the fight, bruv. Then maybe they've got to go spend a bit of time with, is it the Ashburton Army? Those guys are jokes. I love it. When I first saw a thing, an email from them, I thought, oh, these are like some burly geezers. And then they all turned up. Like, these are the same kids that queue up for Prime. Like one of them ones there. And by the way, all clubs have them. All clubs have. You ever seen that video of that kid who's like rubbing the Stone Island badge? Oh, it's so cringe. Honestly, if you wear Stone Island, you're a mug. Like literally, never wear it. Anything on Mudryk yet? We'll probably get him tomorrow. Yes, well, the news is that Arsenal are closing in on it, and we'll update you on that tomorrow as well. But we're speaking all of it tonight. Young Samuel, Jessica, and Brandon joining me momentarily on the terrace. We like to wait for the crowd to arrive before we bring out the stars of the show. You're a football fan, not an Arsenal fan. Why can't these people see that? Look, some people are bantering. They're bantering. But for other people, they just can't. By the way, there's a lot of Arsenal fans that now watch the terrace. If Spurs became amazing and I started praising them, a lot of Arsenal fans would stop watching the terrace as well. I've noticed that I would say 60, 70% of football fans hate hearing other teams praised or learning about the amount of people that challenge me on my views on the Glazers at Man United. You realize instantly you've never watched a single piece of content I've ever made about them, because they kind of challenge you with things that I've answered 100 times. And that's kind of what happens. My view is I rather listen to things about my rivals, because then you learn about them. Like if obviously you want Arteta, your manager, to watch Arsenal all the time, but I want to know that he's watching my rivals every bit as much, if not more. You got to learn them, right? You got to learn your enemies. Got to learn your enemies. People that don't, it's awful. I hate when people give opinions on clubs and you can tell they don't watch their game or don't watch their football. It's mad. And I would say now it's been about 5 years, 6 years. I think I might have missed 3 or 4 games of each of the top 6, not including Man United. I've seen all of them. I've watched. It's actually a big commitment to watch every single game that every single traditional top 6 team in England plays throughout a season, including friendlies as well. So a big commitment. I watch Arsenal actually more than a lot of Arsenal fans do, legit. 100%, I know it. Especially the ones who tweet all game. Can't tweet all game and watch a football match. Learn that. Your dad should be smacking you around the head, because my dad would. Thank you, Alpha Toza. There's a girl used in my street called Toza. Say some stuff. Honestly, that family, they're like the Waltons. Just Google the Waltons. That's what they were like. It was a madness. Someone saying, Terry, what does China mean? China, it means mate. So my China plate means mate. It's Cockney rhyming slang. Proper London talk. Not like that fake. Did you see that fake accent that girl had on the train? Oh my God, like, am I wearing it like so? I'm a date. Do you know what's crazy? I thought Ali G stopped young people wanting to talk like that because they realized how stupid it sounds. Like that fake street accent. Some people really talk like that, and you can tell when it's legit, but then some people put it on, and it's honestly, if I was her parents, I wouldn't be disciplining her. I know she's about 14. I'd be adopting her. She'd be going straight to the orphanage. I'd fake my own death to get rid of her. Like legit. So embarrassing. Who's Ali G? You kids are mad. Like, this is what's funny. What's Ali G? And then you'll realize why half the accents in Top Boy are actually cringe. Watch it. Because do you know what's funny as well about the youth? They never realize this. In 10 years, 15 years time, you're all going to sound, if you're from London, you're going to sound more like me. And then you'll be like, yeah, I used to put that accent on. And then I got older and I realized I sounded like a twit. So you stop. Trust me. All the older ones are going, yeah, I know. Me too. You speak to my boy Phil that comes on. What's Phil now? 40, 42, 43? We all used to speak like that. We've got one friend who still does. Carlos. That's what he calls himself. His name's Kyle. But he calls himself Carlos still. It's mad. It's mad. If you're watching, bruv, I'm sorry. I had to call you out. Anyway, right. I'm bringing out my panel now. Smash the like and the share buttons, people. Let's do this. Good evening. Welcome back to the show. Congratulations on making it through to the 4th round with the rest of the big boys. Of course, barring Chelsea and Newcastle that went out, which is nice. How are we all?
Good. Life is
Good. How are you, Jessica Black?
I'm good.
Are you excited? Are you excited about tomorrow?
Sure. Yeah.
Just to let everybody know, you might not see it. Tomorrow is Jessica's birthday, so that's why I'm like letting people know that. So yeah, happy birthday tomorrow to Jessica. But there we go. Let's talk about the game. What were your thoughts on the performance from Arsenal tonight? I'll go to Jess first.
I mean, the first half was abysmal, and I don't think you can get away with it or around it or anything. I don't want to hear anybody do like the results-based analysis. We were so bad in the first half, and really probably all the way through like the 50-something minute. Like basically we were bad until Xhaka and Zinchenko came on. That's the reality, so it is what it is. I said this before the game that it was going to be just like it was when we went away from home in the Europa League. And people were like, no, it's Oxford. And I was like, it doesn't matter. If you rotate the squad, this is what you get. Disjointed performance, not really taking responsibility of getting on the ball, and you lose a lot of your build-up structure and a lot of your technical ability when you have Holding trying to build up from the back. You have Elneny kind of hiding behind his player. You have Vieira and Sambi kind of getting bullied in midfield. And so it was rough, but it was predictable. you know? And as soon as Xhaka and Zinchenko came on, it was like, boom, we're back to normal. So yeah, 3-0, two really good finishes from Eddie and Nketiah, 2 assists from Vieira. I really don't have much to complain about. It just highlights the obvious reality that we have, that the depth is not really there. And so it's something that needs to be addressed. The one thing I will say is, like, Sambi and Vieira often get hooked into the same group, but I think for real, like, we have to separate the two. Sambi has been here for 2 seasons. Vieira's barely been here for like 5 months. And for me, Sambi, he just doesn't have a place at Arsenal. Like, I don't think he's going to make it. I've said that so many times, and it's just something about this guy. I'm like, he just hasn't worked out, and that's fine. But Vieira, it's the dead ball delivery, the fact that, like, the pass that he put in for Nketiah, there's quality there. We just have to wait for him to, like, get physically ready for the games and stuff like that. He has a goal involvement in every 196 minutes. Like his goal to time ratio is so good for somebody that's not even anywhere near where he's going to be. So yeah, that's the only thing I really took away from the game was Lokonga ain't gonna make it, but we need to let Vieira cook a little bit longer. But I'm happy. There's nothing you really can complain about because we're on to the next round, but we know what's ahead of us. So it is what it is.
I get. Do you boys agree? I mean, with the Vieira again, I thought he did well. The cross was great. Is it maybe not the end of the road for Lokonga, but is it loan time, or do you think actually this just guy isn't gonna ever be good enough for where Arsenal are going? You know, he's good enough for Arsenal 3 years ago, but he's not good enough for Arsenal in 2023 and beyond. Either one of you can talk.
Oh, okay, I'll go. Yeah, no, I'll put 2 players in there, Terry, because I think the Congo was supposed to that, but another player that no one's mentioned is Tierney. The moment he came off and Zinchenko came on, you can see the difference in the quality between the 2 players. So I think Lokonga, we've given him a chance. He's been here for over 2 years now. He's been given countless chances. It feels harsh, but I think the way the team is going right now, I can't see Lokonga having a future at Arsenal. And also another player is Tierney. I think since he's had that injury back in February, he's come back. He's been a different player. He's not the same anymore. It's just his technical ability. I mean, his passing, his crossing is just poor tonight. And the moment you brought on Zinchenko, Terry, he scored 3 goals within 20 minutes. So I think moving forward in any major game, Tierney and Zinchenko is no longer a debate. That debate has been closed tonight, and Zinchenko is a far superior player.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Zinchenko's a superior player. There's no doubt. Brandon, Eddie Nketiah, another 2 goals for him. That's 4, I think, since he's come back into the first team. I want to say 5 games you've played now. Maybe it's 4. Is it 4 or 5? 3 in the league and 1 FA Cup. Yeah, so 4 goals in 4 games is not a bad return.
Yeah, watch out, Erling Haaland. He's not far off, is he? Nah, it is a good return, Terry. Like, let's be honest. Like, we give this guy a lot of stick, and a lot of it is, fair criticism, I would say. But since Gabriel Jesus has got injured and Eddie Nketiah has came into the team, he has stepped up to the plate. None of us can sit here and deny that because he's been doing his job. He's been scoring goals. He's doing what he gets paid to do. So yeah, there's nothing that you can say about Eddie Nketiah's performances at the moment because he's doing exactly what we expect of him. He's scoring goals. He's helping the team, and maybe we don't need to get a striker. I don't know. We'll see. But on Lokonga, right, for a player who was dubbed the new Yaya Toure, or potential to be the new Yaya Toure, he looks a million miles away from it, that guy. He really does. And I agree with what Jess said about, the analysis of the game. The less said about that first half, the better. Like, seriously, all I hope is that Edu Gaspar was watching and taking notes because, Terry, you tried to say to us the other week that you think we're favourites for the league. No chance, mate. Not with that squad depth. We are literally a couple of injuries away from, playing that week in, week out. And it's like you see the massive, massive drop off in quality when you've got a midfield of Lokonga and El Neni to, you know, Jess said it as well. Granit Xhaka come on and change the game. Granit Xhaka, Granit Xhaka, who
Granit Xhaka
a
in
few
2020.
years ago we none of us wanted at the club. We thought his time was done, and that's how bad our depth is. And I'd even make a case as well in that first half to say that Matt Turner was our best player. So to come out in the second half, we was a lot better, but we shouldn't have to bring on the big boys against Oxford. I mean, no disrespect to Oxford, but they're a League One side. We should be comfortably beating them with our second string team. And the fact that we struggled and we got a bit bullied, and they outplayed us at times as well, just goes to show that our depth is really not good enough. So the news that's being broken about Mudryk, I won't sit here and say that I know too much about the player because I don't. But right now, anyone is better than no one. Like, just get anyone in. Seriously, we need signings.
And I get that. I get that. Look, I think you said about Lokonga, I completely agree with. You do need to improve. When I said you were favourites to win the league, I said that was if you signed a couple of players in January. I was very, very specific about that. Mudryk looks like it's going to happen. And I think it's looked like that for a while. Chelsea kind of muddied the water by coming in and saying they'd pay whatever Arsenal offer, will offer more than you. It slowed down negotiations. But Jess, that deal now appears to be going through. We're going to come to Mudryk in a minute, though, but I wanted to get your take. I know you were live today yourself, but the terrace community hasn't all heard. Some would have watched your show, of course. But what was your feeling around the situation with João Felix joining Chelsea? Of course, Arsenal were regularly reported to be in the running or favourites at some point to get him, depending on some Spanish outlets were saying that over the weekend. But what was your personal feeling on João Felix ending up at Chelsea?
I mean, my feeling was mostly just frustration, just because for me, the way that I operate, especially with Arsenal, I've been an Arsenal fan long enough where I've seen many a January transfer window go by and us not do anything. So until I see it, I don't actually believe it. And sometimes we do things in the January transfer window, but it's when nothing is on the line. When things are on the line, we don't act, you know, and the best example of that was just last season. An even better example of that was when Leicester won the league and we just needed more goals. So for me, it's when everybody is just trust the club, just trust the club. I need to see it to believe it. That's how I feel. And seeing João Felix, one of our options, go somewhere else, it's not so much that he went to Chelsea or that I was like hell bent on us getting João Felix. My feeling was that that's one more option gone. So if Mudryk doesn't come to fruition, we probably won't bring anybody in. That was my fear. And so, you know, that was what was frustrating for me. And then the aspect of things where it's like, you know, we play Spurs, we play United, we have difficult games coming up. And even just a new player existing within the squad, even if they're not playing, even if they don't start, can give your team a boost. And I just think that this team needs a little bit of a push. You saw Martinelli today. He's somebody that starts day in and day out. He's an excellent player, but he's out of form. Right now, I'm looking at Martinelli. He's out of form. This is the perfect time to have a player of Mudryk's quality come in and, you know, get him going or take his spot. So I just think that, like, you know, I felt frustrated just because I get why we didn't do it, because the deal was kind of crazy and very expensive. But I don't want Arsenal to have too many excuses to not go out and do what they have to do. Because quite frankly, the whole like we have to get the right player at the right price and all this kind of stuff, the more imperative it is for you to like reinforce the squad, the more options I expect you to have and the more flexible I expect you to be. And I think right player, perfect place, perfect time. This is like our best opportunity in a long time to win the league. So I'm not really trying to hear that. But it looks like they may have actually done it. I'm shocked. If and when Mudryk goes through, I will be so shocked, you guys, because it's going to be almost 100 million euros in January. Like that would be like that would go so a long way for me to believe that this club is serious. A long, long way.
Yeah. Listen, I agree with what you said there, and I think that I watched a lot of your stream today, And I do think it was a brave way to be, because there are a lot of Arsenal fans, and this isn't specifically Arsenal supporters, there's fans of all clubs that do this. This is just, we're talking about Arsenal, where you've got to toe the party line. And when the news that João Felix was going Chelsea broke, I saw a massive shift in certain people's attitudes towards the deal. People that went from, we've got to go and get him, to actually, it's a bad deal financially, it doesn't fit what we're looking at, blah, blah, blah. We then saw both Man United and Arsenal come out with their PR statements via journalists around, we were never that serious, we were never that interested. And the reason I hate that, and whenever it's your own club, people love to believe it. When it's rivals, you see through it because you're not blind. What's the expression? You can see the wood for the trees. If our clubs weren't really interested, they'd have released those statements 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. But they were interested. I just think Arsenal and Man United have been smart to a degree. Chelsea have just said that we don't need no option to buy. There's all these things going on with it. There's now talk that they're going to extend his deal to 2027, meaning if Chelsea want him, it's going to be a huge amount of money at the end of it. And my understanding is, through the reports over the last few weeks, is that Man United and Arsenal both wanted options to buy, where Chelsea didn't, but Chelsea have come in panicking in the last moment and offered them what they wanted. So I think you're absolutely right. You know, this notion of we shouldn't overspend, I kind of get you shouldn't spend £100 million on a £20 million player. But should you spend 25 million on a £20 million player to win the league? Yeah, like that level of additional net spend, I think, is crazy. This comment here says, Terry, do Arsenal fans think Mudryk wouldn't need time to adapt to the Prem? That's my question about Mudryk. So, I mean, there's a lot of talks tonight. The BBC have just said that Arsenal continue to negotiate instead of irrespective. Sky Sports have just said that Mudryk to Arsenal seems imminent, is what they have just said now, which is big words. But how quickly do you think he will adapt to the Premier League and Arsenal's team?
This is the problem, Terry, isn't it, really? Because it's hard to tell, isn't it, really? Like, he's coming from a completely different league. Some players take a lot of time to adapt. Some players adapt instantly. You look at Nicola Pepe as a good example. I never really thought that he settled into the Premier League at all. The only thing that I think Mudryk has on his side is he's young, he's fresh, he's up and coming. He's going to want to prove himself for a price tag as well. And it's a player that, let's just say, over the past couple of years since Arteta and Edu have been there, one thing we can say about them is they haven't overspent on players. They haven't picked the wrong players. Pretty much every signing that they've made recently has been a success. So we kind of have to trust them in that respect as well.
Yes.
But then, like you say, there is that element of how quickly can he settle into the league? Because if he comes in and he doesn't settle in straight away, is he really going to be that much of a help to us? So that's why I kind of think we need another player alongside Mudryk. I don't know whether Arsenal will do that because of the major layout that we're going to make on Mudryk, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, if it was me, for a short-term fix, I'd be looking at Leandro Trossard personally, because the player's contract runs out in June. You could get him cheap. He looks like he wants to move on in January. He's already Premier League proven. I think he'd be a good impact player, and he'd be cheaper than Mudryk as well. But obviously Arsenal are looking at the long term, which is great, but we're in a title race as well. So we've also got to look at that. You know, will we be in a title race next year? Hard to tell, because you've got other teams like Man United, Newcastle, Manchester City will go again, Liverpool will go again. It's only going to get more and more competitive. So I kind of feel like we have to take this opportunity this season, because it might be like few and far between from seasons to come. But look, if Arteta wants the player, Edu wants the player, we have to try and, you know, kind of trust them. They're not laying out this sort of money for no reason. So
you know, the one thing about Mudryk, though, for me is, like, I think where it'll really help us is, even if he needs time to adapt to the Premier League, I don't think he needs time to adapt to Europa League. You know what I mean? Like, this is somebody who's done really well in the Champions League. So in Europe, he'll probably be fine. And that's where I really think he'll come in handy, is getting Saka/Martinelli out of that competition so that they can focus on the Premier League. So even if it's not, you know, he's not amazing in the Premier League, which I think he'll be fine, I think that's where it'll really help, because That's where I think we're going to struggle, is when we get back into the Europa League and trying to balance both. You have to have players that can. I know a lot of us cringed and we're like, oh my gosh, because Martinelli and Saka were starting today. That's something that in the Europa League we probably don't want to happen that often. Not in the beginning, not until we get further along. So, but I get what you're saying. Like, he may not hit the ground running, but one thing he has that I don't think any of our players really have is that blistering pace. And even if you're crap, sometimes just having freaking pace that nobody can live with is really dangerous. So at the very most, we'll have somebody that can run in behind, against teams that try to play us, which we're going to be playing teams that are going to actually come at us. He might be really useful away from home at Newcastle, whoever we go to.
Yeah. Look, I agree. I think that a lot of people want to play this down, and he could flop. Listen, any player can flop. We've seen, we saw Jadon Sancho come back to the Prem after being brilliant at Dortmund, born and bred in England. He's going to deliver. Hasn't gone and done it. You then see players like Kulusevski come into the Prem, where everyone said he's a reject from us inferior league. He's not going to be able to handle it in the Premier League. And when he's been fit, he's looked brilliant as an example. And I think we've seen many examples like that of some you think are going to do well and they don't, and others you think, oh, this will be a great signing. He's going to kill it. And they flop and they fall away. So look, the one thing I would say to Arsenal fans, it's all about whether you trust Arteta and Edu. And if you trust Arteta and if you trust Edu, then I think he'll be okay. This comment here says we need a midfielder. Like, Sam, do you agree with that? Do you think a midfield option as opposed to another attacker would be more sensible between now and the end of the window?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the players that came in today, Lokonga and Elneny, it's a massive drop-off level from Partey and Xhaka. And given, I think there's over 25 Premier League games plus Europa League, so another 30 games left in the season, it's not a guarantee that both of them will be fit starting every single game. So I'm looking at the potential midfielders out there. I think Yuri Tielemans, as of right now, is being talked about, but I don't see him coming in January. I think the club are going to wait for summer. I just don't see the club moving for a midfielder, in my opinion. I think now that Mudryk's done, I think the club are still going to move for another attacker. From what I've heard, I think there's reports early in the month that Fernan Torres, we were interested in Fernan Torres from Barcelona, so I really wouldn't mind him. But as of right now, Terry, the priority for me is the attacking front.
Yeah, I mean, the midfield's an interesting one. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about, you mentioned Yuri Tielemans, his name keeps coming up. I know you guys can get him for free in the summer, but that's an example of spending money. If you guys went and got him in the summer, but it turned out you could get him for £10 million now, and you don't, and you're in this title race, and somebody picks up an injury in midfield, it almost feels negligent to not do that business, if that makes sense. If he's no longer a target, and you've called your interest because you don't think he's good enough, that's a different scenario, because you don't want to lumber yourself with someone on a 5-year deal that you don't really want after this season. It has to be someone that's within the remit. But it's going to be an interesting one indeed. Let's have a look at some of these comments. Ferran Torres banned for the head, the pulling of the hair yesterday.
Wrestling.
Yeah, that was funny actually. I got coaxed into watching another league, and I sat there just going, this is not my Prem. This is not my Terry, that number 8 role needs fixing ASAP. So help me God, if Xhaka gets injured, that could be worse than Partey. Imagine if Lokonga has to play in the Premier League.
Vieira will play.
Now.
Vieira will play. He's next in line. Like, Sambi ain't playing in the Premier League, y'all. It would take a lot. He's third choice 6 and third choice 8. The next person up is Vieira. So, and I thought he was fine when he played against Wolves. Do I want him to play at St. James's Park? Probably not. You know what I mean? But it's Vieira, it's not Zambi.
Yeah, forget the Xhaka position. I think we're well covered in the Xhaka position. It's the Thomas Partey position I really worry about, because midfield battles is 9 times out of 10 where you win or lose games. And we've proven time and time again that without Thomas Partey in the midfield, we're not very good at winning our battles. So there's a reason why Arsenal were looking at Douglas Luiz in the summer. And I think we need a combative midfielder who can cover for Thomas Partey, can come on, make an impact as well. So if it was me, I wouldn't even be looking at Ferran Torres personally. I'd be looking at another midfielder. You know, somebody. I tell you, who's a perfect example, right? And I'm surprised that no teams have been linked with him. Amrabat, the Moroccan midfielder. Amrabat. He had an exceptional World Cup. I believe he only plays for Fiorentina. Like, why couldn't you go out and get a player like that?
I think people are a little worried to buy off of. I'm old. I'm old enough to remember Man United buying Jordi Cruyff, not Johan, Jordi Cruyff, and Karol Probalski after Euro '96. And Liverpool fans still have nightmares about signing El Hadji Diouf, and I'm sure all clubs have done that. Got a super chat here. I want to pose this to you all. This says Lokonga would thrive with Partey behind him, but a loan could help him reach another level. Lokonga's confidence is just low. He has the talent needed.
You guys. Okay. He was bought in to be a number 6. When we first got him, he was the heir to Thomas Partey's throne. That's what they were telling us. Thomas Partey is a 6. Sambi came in to play 6. And then when they realized he wasn't good enough to play that position, then they moved him to 8 in preseason. The only reason why he played 6 again was because our players got injured and we couldn't get Douglas Luiz. But as an 8, what is Lokonga going to do for us there? Defensively, he's shocking. You know, in the final third, is he scoring goals? Is he getting assists? No, that's not really his bag. So what is he going to do for us in the 8 position? He's just honestly, I think there's just some players that don't work out. We only spent 18 million on him. It's fine. But 2 seasons in, you guys, it doesn't take that long to start. 2 seasons is a long time. Even with his limited playing time, he's been here long enough for me. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't doubt that he's got talent, but like Jess just said, I don't see him being a number 8. He doesn't really push forward and make bursting runs into the box. He doesn't really break the lines with passes or anything like that. He's not that great defensively. And to me, I don't think it's even anything to do with his talent. I just think his attitude's not right. That's what I see. You know, you watch, if you go back to the documentary and you see, you know, him sat there in the canteen with Eddie and the rest of the young players, and he was moaning about how he was not playing and he's not happy anymore because he's not playing. Get on with it, mate. You know, like, do what you need to do to get yourself back into that team. But it's almost like he's given up because he's just not showing anything, really. Nothing at all. Like, against Oxford United, you should be running that midfield. I'm sorry, you should.
I mean, if you look at what the likes of Reece Nelson and Willock, you know, were doing against teams like this in the FA Cup, in the Carabao Cup before, you know, under Emery and under Arteta, what we're getting from Sambi is way lower standard, and we spent money on him, and he's older than what they were when they were. And I know they're from our academy, but it almost feels like he came in as a player, a big player. We spent money on him, and he was supposed to be this guy, and he was the captain of Anderlecht and stuff like that. But he doesn't work the way that our academy players work. I'd rather put an academy player in there, straight up, because at least I'm going to see them work hard. I'd rather have Willock in there than him. And I know that sounds really bad, but I've seen Willock have games in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup better than Sambi. And we sold Willock for 25 million. I'm not saying I want Willock back, but I'm just not getting anything from Sambi. So, and I do think he's talented, but he needs to go to a different league, a slower league and stuff like that.
Listen, it's obvious he's going to replace Samuel Lokonga and Thomas Partey. Some midfielder from West Ham is going to come in this summer, take the role at number 6. It's written. I think that's a fact.
You guys are so into Rice. It's wild.
I think he's coming. I genuinely believe he's coming.
I don't know.
I think that I don't know if he's coming to Arsenal, but I think Declan Rice to Arsenal takes you up a level. I think he's sensational, and he gets a lot of bad press. He, like a number of English players, he's not. The crazy thing is, if Declan Rice was from, what's your academy called?
Or Hale End.
If he was from Hale End, you man would have his back. most Man United are the only fan base who are weird. We're a 50-50 split. Chelsea are the same. Chelsea and Man United both have fan bases, but there's a 50-50 split where half that fan base despises academy players and the other half loves it. But you guys love academy players irrespective of where they're from. This guy is sensational. You just got to understand who he's playing with and who his manager's been for the last few years and how well he does. You give him a manager like Arteta and the quality of players around him that Arsenal have got, and he'll thrive. He'll thrive at Arsenal. Legitimately, he will. And it'll cost a pretty penny. But then on top of that, there is people are saying Milinkovic-Savic. Declan Rice is better than Milinkovic-Savic. He just is. He's not doesn't have an exotic name. He may not be as fashionable in your world, but he's also worth a fair few quid because his image rights are worth a lot of money because he's an England star. There's no doubt about it. Let me in on the chat. Sambi is supposed to be Yaya Touré's second coming, which makes him an 8 or a 10, not a 6. Yeah, but when people say Yaya Touré's second coming, it's probably just a lazy comparison due to an immutable of the individual. Like we do that. We do that all the time with players. They used to say that Paul Pogba was the second coming of Patrick Vieira. Why? Because he was tall, lanky, black, and French. But their style of play was so different from one another. It was unbelievable. Like, let's not get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Like, if someone looks a little bit like someone, or they're short like someone, we go, it's the new so and so. You know what position he plays, how he plays, his style of play. It's crazy. Like Lukaku's a great one. Lukaku gets misjudged because he's big. People think he's a target man. This guy's more like mykhaylo than he is a target man. He plays off the shoulder. That's what he does. He's a tapping merchant. Like
he's the new Stormzy.
I remember that picture in the paper. That was mad. Sambi isn't done. Eddie, Nelson, Miles had a chance. Essentially, DJ saying give him more time. What I would say though, barring Eddie and Nketiah, like Nelson and like Maitland-Niles, they were given too long, and that was in the worst era we've ever seen Arsenal in. So it's almost a case of that perseverance with substandard quality. Would Sambi be given this many chances at Man City?
Not a chance.
And who wins all the titles?
City.
So
I'll tell you something else as well. Maitland-Niles has had better performances in midfield than Sambi has recently.
Damn, that's cold. That's really, really
it's
cold.
It's the truth, though. I remember Maitland-Niles putting in a man-of-match performance against Manchester United. And he's still got sold on. So, you know, give this player time, and like we ain't really got time to be waiting around. We're trying to move on as a football club. If the player's not ready or he's just not good enough, then move him on. Get somebody else.
Move on.
But it's
I like
so
that.
true. It's true. It's true.
This here says he has the physicality and passing range when he comes into the team. He can break lines as well. Nelson coming good now too, though. Is he?
He doesn't have the physicality whatsoever. So I don't think so. I have to disagree with that. Passing range, he has a decent passing range, but Sambi needs time and space to see those passes. That's really what it comes down to. And he's not getting time because people have clocked him. They're like, if we just put a little elbow on him, a little shoulder on him, we can take the ball off of him. A lot of the moments that I think turned Arsenal fans off of him in the 6 role was because he got easily dispossessed, you know, receiving the ball from the back line. He was a pressing trigger. So he can break the lines. He has a good passing range, but if you can't do it under pressure in the Prem, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to us. And Nelson is not coming good. He's still injury prone, and he had one decent game against Nottingham Forest where we were battering them, and he was a beneficiary of it. We have to let some of these guys go. I love Reece Nelson, but it's time to move on.
Do you know what's interesting about it? I'm going to say a player's name. I'm going to say Kelechi Iheanacho. And the reason that I say his name, I know he's not a midfielder before anyone gets weird. He had 2 full seasons at City after breaking through the academy. I'm not sure if he was how long he was at their academy, but he was part of their academy, I believe, and he came through into the first team. Pep Guardiola was there, I think, at the very least for the second season. He may have even been there for the first season. I'm not too sure. 2016-17. Pep must have been there 2016.
Yeah, he was.
He definitely was. The guy had 2 years. He's still only mid-20s now, but he was moved on. He scored 14 goals in his first season and 7 goals in his second season. But he was moved on because Pep Guardiola knew that he didn't have the ability to move the needle. And essentially what you need is nearly all of your squad to be able to be regular first team players. And that's why football is different now in the sense of teams can accumulate more points. Because if you go back into the 90s and the noughties, no one had squads like that. Even Man United. The first squad I saw that was of that level of depth was Chelsea in the mid-noughties, where their bench could win the league. Man United didn't have benches that could win the league. We used to have Henning Berg and David May on our bench. Like, legitimately, benches weren't as deep, but football has changed. But look how quickly City go. You've had 2 years. You're not good enough. We're moving you on. Man United, we persevered with people like Danny Welbeck and Darren Gibson under Fergie. We then persevered with substandard quality for years since him. And Arsenal,
Januzaj, Federico Makeda.
all of them persevered too long. Now, I've got a question for you. How long, and this is before Arteta, that's why I'm using it as an example. How long did Sonogo last at Arsenal? I swear it was 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, 3 years there.
3. The point is, you guys did the same thing that Man United were doing. You persevered with players that on their day look good. And I know you did what I did with my players. You pray that today was the day they were going to have a good game and then kick on to the next level. And how often did it happen? How often did it happen? It doesn't. So that's my message to Arsenal fans, United fans, Tottenham fans. You know in your heart of hearts whether someone is of the level or not very quickly. The reason you defend them is because you're desperate to be wrong in what you feel, and you're praying and hoping that it works out. But you know in your heart of hearts that Sambi isn't good enough. The same as you all knew after maybe 10 games that Joe Willock was never making it at Arsenal. But you love him because he's an academy player. You want him to do it. But you know in your heart of hearts they're not good enough. You just know. The difference is, look at Martinelli from day one. You just knew he's going to be good enough. You're like, this is a player. You know, Saka from his debut. Saka should be almost the minimum standard you expect from players coming through an academy. And if they're not of that level, you sell them by. You want to keep maybe 2 or 3 for the squad because they don't get as annoyed being on the bench from fringe players. But if they're not of the level, they've got to be moved on. Like, they just have to be, in my opinion. Like, if you want to win Prems in 2023 consistently, challenging that Champions League, be one of the best teams, you've got to be goddamn ruthless. And you say Sonogo was rubbish. You're right. He was. But I remember the way I'm hearing people talk about Sambi, I remember people speaking about him like that. He'll come good. He just needs time. He's the next this. He's the next that. No, he isn't.
Terry, I remember we played him against Bayern Munich, and he just didn't get a touch the ball.
Look at this. Jones at United. I've heard he's a chef now. Listen, it's Phil Jones. I know it's not United stream, but legit. Someone mentioned him today in a tweet I saw, and I'm like, is he still at Man United, or did we let him go in the summer? Like, if he's still there, I'm gonna love him. Yeah, he's there. He's still at the club.
I think he's cleaning the boots or whatever, isn't he?
Do you know what it is? I don't know what he's doing the gutter in. I don't know what it is that he does, and you guys can go back through, and Arsenal fans will be better at doing this than me, but go back through the years where you felt the decline of your club really coming in, and go back and look at the squads, and then look at some of the mediocre players and how long they lasted, and then apply that logic to now and go, right, of this squad, who do we know isn't good enough? These 2, 3, 4. Well, let's put pressure on the club to get rid of them. Not because you're being nasty, not because you're being disrespectful, but my opinion has always been this: love your club more than any player. And if you put your club first, your club will persevere. Club comes first, always, every single day of the week.
Can I say one thing? There's like a comment here about the panel is blaming the second string players when everyone, including Saka and Martinelli, look horrible too in the first half. The difference between Saka and Martinelli and Sambi is that Saka and Martinelli have carried us for multiple seasons in a row. So they can have a bad game with a rotated squad that was actually holding them back. Saka and Martinelli were having a bad game because the players behind them were holding them back, not because Saka and Martinelli weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. I do think Martinelli is slightly out of form. He's not as good as what he was before the World Cup. But beyond that, what are we talking about? Like, Sambi does not have enough credit in the bank for him to have poor games on a regular basis and for us to blame other players. You know, I don't get that. You know, Saka and Martinelli have so much credit in the bank. Like, they've been carrying us for a very long time. Remember when they used to play on the left-hand side? Saka was a left back and Martinelli was left wing? And they were carrying us from the gutter? Hello? Saka and Martinelli have so much credit in the bank. Like, be real.
Couldn't agree with you more. Josh here says, Terry, everyone is forgetting Charlie Patino is back next year from Blackpool and he'll be cooking. You wait. He will have Xhaka's spot by the end of next season, calling it now. And that's a fair claim. But my view is this. If you had the option to sign a star now, if Charlie Patino's good enough, he'll still play. If you're good, it is a fallacy that you're held back by your club signing good quality players. Because if your club sign a player that's on average 8.5, 9 out of 10, if you're of that level, you're going to show it. You're going to show it in training. You're going to show it in games where you come on as a substitute. You're going to show it when you're rotated in, and you will work your way into the team. This notion that it blocks progression, that only kind of makes sense if you've got a club that's just throwing money at the problem and all they do is buy stars, or you've got a manager that doesn't like young players. So I get it if you've got a Conte or a Jose that doesn't like to develop young players. But if Patino's good enough, he'll be good enough whoever you buy, because he's obviously better, isn't he? And if he's better, then it doesn't matter who you buy. But if you can buy someone better, my view is this: if you can buy, say Patino's going to average an 8 out of 10 every game, but you can buy someone who averages 9 out of 10, wouldn't you rather just buy the better player rather than go, oh, yeah, this guy's not as good, but he's one of our own? That logic. And I'm a Man United fan. Look at the history of our academy and how long academy players have been in our first team for. It's something like over 1,000 games on the bounce.
People are forgetting as well. We have a thin squad. Competition for places makes a successful team. Manchester City are a prime example. They have competition for places. They can bring players off the bench that are just as good as their first team 11. Same with Manchester United back in the day when they used to win Premier League title after Premier League title. So, it's not just a case of, oh, buy this player or keep this player because he has potential. No, you need to expand on that as well and make sure that the players that are playing in your first 11 stay hungry as well. Because Kevin De Bruyne knows that if he has a bad game or a bad couple of games, then he might not get back in that Manchester City team anymore because Bernardo Silva is going to take his place instead. So I don't understand this whole notion of, oh, you can't buy a player because it blocks this and that and the other. It's rubbish, a load of rubbish.
I remember another Arsenal player that my Guna mates used to go on about, and this guy was going to make it. He needs more game time. I think his first name was Jeremy Aliadier.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember him? Baller. I don't even know. Where is he now? I mean, he must be quite old. It must be in his late 20s.
He does like broadcasting for Arsenal on the breakdown on the website.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Wow. I thought he was young. Maybe again, that shows how old I am. Maybe he was a youngster. How old is he? I was just searching. No. How old is he? Oh, he's 39. Yeah. See, that's actually would have been when I was very young that he was through. But I remember he was a player that a lot of Arsenal fans for years. Yeah, this was like the early noughties when they were like, this guy's going to be a star. And every time I think he went out on loan 2 or 3 times to like Wolves, West Ham, a few other clubs. And people were like, this guy, when he comes back, watch him fly. And again, I've said this now, I bet you can't find more than 5 players in the Premier League who have gone on more than one loan, who have come back to their parent club and been a star for many years. I bet you Harry Kane is like a standout, but I bet you can't find very many that do it. You're getting loaned out because you ain't goddamn good enough as a general rule. Like United fans are doing it with Ethan Laird and Ahmad when they come back. Oh my God. Yeah, I guarantee you neither at the club in 2 years. I guarantee you, because if they were good enough, they'd be here. They just would be. Like, that's my view anyway. But obviously,
so you have Harry Kane and you have William Saliba.
William Saliba could be an example of a player that does it. But again, even his reason for leaving, though, wasn't necessarily ability. There was family issues. I swear there was a passing in the family. But still, they're very few and far between. Even if you can give 5 examples, that would be less than 1% of loan players, It's Emil Smith-Rowe. Yeah, but Smith-Rowe, again, they could be those players, but they haven't made it. And some saying Jack Wilshere. Is Jack Wilshere an Arsenal legend? Comparing him to the midfielders that you guys have had? I mean, I know injuries ruined him. Balogun could do it. We'll see. We'll see. Gnabry. Well, Gnabry's not back at his parent club, is he?
Nope.
You've got to be.
Nketiah.
Nketiah, maybe Arsenal are going to break this trend and they got 4 or 5 of them that do it, but they're very, very rare. They're very, very rare indeed. But we will see. Bellingham, not Bellingham. Bellerin. Bellerin. There we go. Team, listen, I really appreciate you all coming on and having your say. Jess, Sam, and Brandon. Viewers, I really appreciate all your time as ever. Back tomorrow with more content for you. Me and Lee Gunner in the afternoon, I think about 3:30. United play in the evening. We're about to get ourselves into a little semi-final. Not too bad for a dead club. And I'm sure there'll be some breaking transfer news as well. Until next time, everybody, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all again very, very soon.